I'll be having fun. So what we're going to talk about is what coaching is and isn't, because a lot of people don't know what coaching is, or they think they know what coaching is, which is always interesting. Most of my clients that come to me over the last God knows how many years usually haven't got a clue what it is. It normally starts off, the process goes like this, and some of you will probably see this. You see my face appear. If you come from a referral or someone's mentioned me, it's different because they normally kind of sing my praises, and that's cool. That's much nicer. But usually people see my face somewhere. First off, they think, who is this dickhead? And then they start to think, actually, he's saying things that kind of make sense. And then it's like, well, what does he do? But you'll have the questions answered for you tonight. So we're going to talk about that, how coaching works as well. Because if you get this wrong, then it's not really coaching. I see it's done in innocence. You know, I don't think everyone's on their own journey. Everyone's at different levels of understanding. Everyone is doing the best they can do based on the level of consciousness they have, based on the level of awareness they have. But there's a lot of terrible coaches. Problem is, you can go on Udemy and pay 10 quid and get a course, which doesn't really often give you what you need, or give you the experiential understanding of what coaching is. And anyway, it's the same in any industry, really. So I want to talk about how coaching works and how it works for me. Like, I will tell you about this, but it's been a journey for me. CBT, neuroscience, NLP, all of this stuff, and trying to figure out what works. And I've been really, clients are kind of my lab rats in some ways, where I test stuff and have been for years and years and years. You try something and you go, yeah, it doesn't work. Sometimes other stuff you try and it really makes a difference, and you're like, okay, that's cool. And then I'll share that with someone else and that works. And you think, oh, so there's a lot of kind of experience as well. As I said, I've been doing this for like 10 years, but really I've been doing it my whole life. Most of you will know that if you're similar, where my whole life I've been interested in humans. Chris, who's on the call actually, we've been best friends since we were like 13, 14, I can't remember what age. And we used to talk about this stuff even back then. You know, we wasn't high. We didn't do that stuff. We were just high on life, maybe, talking about humans and behavior, and we'll get into that in a second. But we're also going to cover the mistakes most people make. This is going to be applicable to you whether you want to become a coach, whether you're already coaching, or whether you are leading a team. People make lots of mistakes, which mean that you could give advice, etc., and it just falls on deaf ears. We'll talk about that. Two models of coaching. Now, I'm going to give these as demonstrations, so I can kind of demonstrate to a certain level of coaching. Again, you can actually probably take these and apply these. I'd like you to look deeper than that, but that will make sense when we get there. And then next steps as well, because some of you might be interested in what's on offer in terms of where do you go from here, what can this become, how does it look if we want to move forward? And if you don't want to know that, then you don't have to stick around. So first off, I know some of you already know. Apologies. So Liam's actually on the call. He looks older than this now. If he hasn't got bored yet, just listens to my stuff, which I'm completely happy with. But I've cut half his face off. There's no intention there. Didn't mean to do that. But your face is gone. So anyway, who am I? I mean, it's a massive story. If anyone's listened to the podcast, you'll know. If you've worked with me, you'll know. So I'll keep this as short as possible because I want to get to the good stuff. But this, although you would have heard my story probably on the podcast and stuff, that would have been from a slightly different lens, from a different perspective, from a kind of creating transformation perspective. You know, things like my podcast are designed to create insight. This is probably more who am I from a behind the scenes, James as a coach perspective, which I don't necessarily talk about in other areas. Long story short, I think, as I said, I was always fascinated in humans. I've always found myself watching humans. I always felt a bit different to other people. Like I find myself just observing, watching others, kind of always feeling surrounded by people, but kind of alone. Like things just look different to me, and I've always been fascinated with human behavior. There are studies that suggest that due to my kind of upbringing, I won't go into that, but you know, being kind of abusive and volatile, mum's got personality disorder, etc., etc. So some studies would suggest that to survive in an environment like that, you have to become very good at reading body language and to essentially stay alive. If I need to know whether I'm going to get killed or not, or if I'm going to get fed or not, or whether I'm going to be wearing that dinner on my head because I've said something wrong, then you need to navigate, you need to learn how to read people. And so there's one theory as to why sometimes people that have experienced that form of trauma tend to go into work like this, which is interesting. Again, don't know if that's true or not, but interesting theory. Then for me, you know, there was periods of kind of depression, small period of sort of self-harm. I would sell drugs, do drugs, steal things, smash things, get in trouble with the police, all of that stuff. But underneath, there was always this feeling of, I knew that I wanted life to be better. It's like I'd look at this and think that's not what I want. That's not the parent I want to be, or this isn't the life I want. Those are challenges I don't want. And it kind of drives this motivation to be better in some way, to have more to, which is why this photo is really, really powerful for me. I even kind of felt emotional for a second. I'm not going to cry on you, don't worry. But because to me, to have a functional, happy family, we've been together, Jenna and I, for 12 years, you know, to have a happy, functional family, the life I'm living, and in many ways, as much as it's easy to forget, to actually appreciate, and I'm sure we've all experienced this, because you can often be chasing the next thing, forget to stop and go, wow. When I do stop and appreciate, which I make a practice of, it is like, that's pretty cool, you know what. So I jumped ahead a bit, but so I went to uni and stuff because I thought that was the way to go. I thought that was how I was going to be successful. I didn't know this line of work existed. I didn't know having a business existed. I didn't really know that was possible for me. My dad was a fantastic coach himself, not actually a coach, but the way he approached me was so skillful. Now I look back, I don't even think he's aware of how well he managed me because he asked me questions. He'd always get me to think for myself. It was just amazing. I could talk about that for hours, but yeah, I lost my train of thought again. So yeah, but him being sort of only ever worked and then been disabled for as long as I can remember. So I suppose he didn't really know what was possible either. So you just kind of follow your level of thinking, what you understand to be true, go to uni, that makes sense. Someone like me doesn't do that. And fell in love with psychology, exercise and health psychology, sports psychology. Wanted to be a sports psychologist, but couldn't afford the masters because I was, broke and that. And I found myself as a personal trainer. I actually found myself as a personal trainer because I was in good shape and I loved the gym. And the advert promised me a 30 grand a year job at the end of it, which a promise they did not fulfill. And I found myself like, well, I'm going to fucking do this myself then. Like, let's do this. But I didn't know I was going to be running a business. I didn't know I was going to be really changing lives. I didn't really know at that point what that was going to turn into. But it very quickly transformed for me. I found myself working on a deeper level with clients, and that's where I then become a coach, because I found that there was always deeper issues. The weight was always usually a symptom for something else, something deeper. So I ended up kind of working with people that come to me suicidal and had written a note to their kids, and it's like, wow, I didn't even know. They wouldn't even tell me until we'd worked together for a long period of time and their life changed, and people to lose weight, and I would talk about their marriages, and that went incredibly well for me because I love the deeper transformational work of that. And that's where gradually over time I started to see that I was getting people better results in conversation via coaching. So someone would come to me and I had staff and studios by this point. The business grew, everything was great on the outside, not on the inside. I was miserable in terms of other aspects, still trying to solve my own shit. Hang on, let me just let something in. Someone was in the waiting room, which I'll try and keep an eye on. Yeah, and I found that when they come to me and me working with them on a deeper level, they'd get more results than the people that are actually training in the studio with my staff. And it was like, okay, there's something in this, which then just led me to just kind of focus more on that. But in amongst all of this, I I will get to the point soon, I promise. I've got that boring you, but I thought I was bipolar. I thought I was fucked, honestly. Because I was up and down, I was all over the place. What people saw externally was, this happy, good-looking, apparently I'm told, guy in good shape, successful, making money. Wow, everyone even at that point is like, I can't believe what you've kind of turned into. And I'm thinking, you don't know the half of it, because actually behind kind of closed doors, I think I'm losing my mind. I'm constantly overthinking. I'm feeling angry. I'm losing my temper over small things. Some days I feel like I'm going to take over the world, and the next I feel like I couldn't even get out of bed. I just didn't tell anyone this, and I'd tell Jenna this, and she'd think I was bipolar as well, and nuts. And that obviously compounded this journey of, I knew I could help people, and I loved helping people, and everyone seemed to get a lot from me, but kind of secretly, sometimes I feel like a fraud, because it's like, I'm fucked. Like, and that led me on this journey, this constant, it become a passion, it become an obsession, but in a healthy way, where it was constantly trying to get to the root of, how do humans work? That's what I was interested in. Like, how do humans work? Why do I do things? Why do humans do things? Why do we say things? Why do I love Jenna, but yet somehow I can't stop myself from being a total dick? Or, why am I all over the place? And that's what led me into this, was trying to work out, because I knew the more I could figure this stuff out and work out the operating system of humans, which we're going to talk about. It was like, how do humans work? We come into this world, no one tells us about emotions, thoughts, feelings, what thoughts are, what feelings are, what they mean, what they don't mean. The perspective, the lens we're looking at life through. We're just kind of somehow dumped here with this bag of bones and stuff, and have to try and find our way through. And most of us, didn't necessarily have conversations with our parents or anyone. I didn't talk to anyone about any of it. If I did, they thought I was nuts, so that didn't help. So that's what drove this, was like, what is the operating system behind humans? If we can figure out how it works, then that seemed like a good place to start. Forget the drama that you're telling me right now. What is drama? Where's this coming from? What is this? What was behind? If everything's happening on this stage, I'm interested in backstage. The special effects, the lights, who's pulling the curtains shut? What's going on here to explain this? Because I find that, and that's what we'll go into today a little bit. Obviously, we've got not a huge amount of time, but is, rather than looking at the symptoms of the human experience, like, actually, what's really happening here? Because if we can find clarity there, we can find understanding there, the whole game becomes much easier, which hopefully I'll shed some light on. Does this make sense so far? Just give me a nod or a yes. Anyone having fun? Dave, because you're in a dark room, it kind of looks you look bored, but I know you're not. I know you're having fun. You don't have to, honestly, you don't have to change positions. Or if you want, just get really close to the camera and just do this, just so I know. So cool. So massively, I'm assuming that's to my questions. This makes sense so far. Yeah. Cool. So moving on, I think I've covered everything there. I clearly didn't really plan that, hence the dotted around this, but I think that may have given you some insight into why I'm here, why I do what I do. And I've done this after working with people around all sorts of stuff, but kind of hidden behind the disguise of weight loss and stuff like that. I didn't even get to the main point, really. Fucked the whole business up, lost it all, lost all bank accounts shut, no money, lost my house, moved in with the in-laws, court summons, debt letters, and then I'm find myself sat in a field, kind of like, what the hell has happened here? And that gave me an opportunity to really kind of look at, from an outside perspective, what the hell has happened. I knew how to coach. I've been helping people change their lives in ways that, and all the emotions that come with this. It gave me a real chance to really reflect on and look at what was going on for me. Much like a coach can kind of give someone else an outside perspective. Turns out sitting in a field all day, wondering what's happened with your life, it also does that. And plus I had sort of coaches, etc. myself, but that's when I then started talking about this. I started talking the truth. It was so scary. I'd be shaking as I record the video. Videos are awful, the first ones. Don't ever try and find my ones from years ago because they're embarrassing. But I was just being really honest about the truth of how I felt and the thoughts I had and what I now saw to be true. And I imagined everyone was going to go, holy shit, this guy needs sectioning. But what actually happened was people would message and say, oh my God, you've said the things that I feel and I didn't know anyone else felt them. And I'd get messages from people I didn't even expect. And I'd meet people, family or friends, or I'd bump into someone in Subway and they'd say, I really love your video. Do you watch them? That's weird. And I'm not saying video is the only way to grow a coaching business. For me, that just so happened to be something that sat with me, just felt right. So that's how this next phase began, where I started working more with business owners and people who generally like me, you know, family, wife, kids, business, all of this stress. Everyone thinks your life's amazing. Instagram, it looks amazing. Everyone thinks you should be happy and you can't talk to anyone because your wife would panic. You know, your staff would think whatever, and your friends are saying what you're talking about. You've got everything. Why do you need to, you know, well, what's going on with you, kind of thing. So, but as that's expanded, I've then worked with loads of other people as well. Because again, I wanted to see, does this work with a 15-year-old? Does it work with a woman? Does it work with, you know, whatever other things there are? I don't mean things, but different. I'm sure nowadays. Well, I know nowadays actually that there are people that aren't necessarily male or female. Apparently, you know, that's their decision. Let's drink to interrupt that awkward conversation. No, honestly, I don't know where I am with that, but I think that's probably a deeper conversation to be had there with people around identity. And but cool, whatever. It's got nothing to do with me what someone wants to call themselves, which we will get onto as well. Absolutely no fucking difference to me in my life. And if you get really curious and interested, then sometimes you learn some really cool stuff. I have worked with someone who was a girl, become a boy, and he's now married and lives in the US and has been married for a long time. It's really fascinating actually diving into the thoughts and feelings around that. It's really cool actually. So anyway, moving on. So what coaching is, again, I'm just going to kind of riff here.